This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. How are you on this beautiful Friday morning here in East Greenbush? Hopefully it is where you are. You enjoyed a short work week this week. Maybe some people didn't. Ken may not have. It's a busy time in the sports world, obviously. So I want to thank my guest from last week, Mark Mancini, is always from Mancini Media, coming on Sundays. Just a great guy. He produces a bunch of shows across the country, and he's doing a great job with his podcast. And I've obviously visited some of his shows as well, mostly Left Turn to Alcatraz, which you haven't checked it out. You really have to. And he'll be on Sunday with me as well, and we'll have some topics of conversation, I'm sure, with the NFL starting up, college football in full swing. Lots to talk about. Listen, I want to thank the groups, obviously, who let me share this to you guys. I will say again, if I share it, there'll be relevant content. So, you know, some of you individual teams, groups will be talking about you. And I usually try to lean on the ones that we talk about heavier. So there'll be content for your members. Without further ado, because we got a lot to cover, my guest today is going to be Ken Schott from the Schenectady Gazette, the Daily Gazette. And Ken's been in the sports business for a long time. And I know he just did his vlog yesterday, or his podcast yesterday, talking about the NFL season. And I did not listen to it, so I would not be influenced at all today. But let's bring in Ken Schott from the Daily Gazette. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Keith. How you doing?
I am excellent. So great to have you with me here today. As always, you are, as I mentioned to you earlier, you now are tied with the immortal Kevin Kernan for most appearances on TGI Sports Talk. So,
well, I feel honored.
We might have to get you some kind of proclamation or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get together on a short notice, but we'll do the best we can. So I appreciate you coming in this morning. I know it's been a busy week for you, I'm sure,
Yes,
with everything going on in sports.
Yeah, it's crazy between the NFL starting and high school football and all the high school fall sports finally playing in the fall. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. It is nice to get back to some sense of normalcy, right? I want to say good morning to Dave Gazette, who else? Ronan from across the ocean. Ronan's over in, I believe I think he's in Great Britain. If I'm wrong, Ronan, I apologize. And Kenny Gifford up there in Bleecker Mountain this morning, probably getting cold up there. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, lots going on. It is, before we jump into it, it is nice with the college football season starting to see, full stadiums and bands and the atmosphere just returning. And I was telling somebody yesterday that you just didn't realize what you were missing. I mean, we realized we were missing something watching the games last year, right? But I don't think I felt the magnitude of what I missed until it was back this past week.
Yeah, so one of the games, one of the games, college games I saw was Wisconsin and Penn State. The fans were singing, "Fill Me Up, Buttercup," and Fox just went with it and just let the fans go, and it was just awesome. And of course, the one thing you are afraid of is still this Delta variant. You still got to play it safe out there, and you just still wonder if we're still going to if this variant's going to make it even worse for people, and if we have to go back to a more stringent policy of limiting fans. I hope not, but if people don't get their shots and follow the science, we're going to be back in where we were last year.
We certainly don't want to be there, that's for sure. This is again, getting back out into life has been a great experience, and I don't want to go backwards myself. So
yeah,
please. And I will apologize to Ronan before we jump in here. I had a feeling it was Ireland. I was going to say the wrong thing, and I couldn't have been more wrong. So I apologize, Ronan. So I'll have to come over and play golf with you there in Ireland, Ronan. I'll make it up to you, I promise. So, Ken, let's jump right into it. I mean, with the NFL season kicking off last night, obviously, with a really fun game between Tampa Bay and Dallas. I want to go we can talk real quickly about that game if you'd like, but I want to jump into the, go division by division, look at the, who we look to be the favorites and the surprises, the disappointments, the breakouts, and a lot to cover, obviously. And in 55 minutes, but we're going to do the best we can. Any comments about the start last night?
That was a heck of a game. Back and forth. Dak Prescott looked like his old self. Obviously, everybody's worried about the shoulder. Of course, he had the devastating leg injury last year. But he looked good. Tom Brady looked good. It was just a fun shootout, and it came down to who had the ball last. I know Dallas had the ball last with 2 seconds left, but Tom Brady drives him down the field to get that game-winning field goal, and we're off and running. It could hopefully be a foreshadowing of how the season's going to go. Hopefully, with a lot of exciting games and fans in the stands enjoying it.
It's funny being a Patriot fan, and when Dallas went ahead with 1:24 left, I just sat there and I'm like, I've seen this movie too many times. I know what's going to happen here, So it was fun to watch, though. So great start. Go ahead, Ken.
As an Eagles fan, I was very happy the Cowboys lost.
Of course you were. I was surprised at Dak too, real quick, because oh gosh, one of the most boring things I've watched in forever is this year's version of Hard Knocks. It was just. It was like I didn't feel like I was watching anything. I don't know if you saw any of it, but what I got out of it was they protected Dak so much during training camp. I was unsure what they were going to get last night, but he looked really, really good, I thought.
Yeah, all the talk you heard about is she had a shoulder issue, and they were trying to be careful with him, and it didn't look like he had a shoulder issue last night. He threw for over 400 yards, and he looked good. He looked like his midseason form.
He did. It's going to be interesting. And we'll get to the NFC East in a little bit. That's going to be an interesting division, maybe for different reasons than, say, the NFC West, but it's going to be an interesting division nonetheless. Let's start in the AFC just for alphabetical reasons. We'll start in the East. Obviously, the Bills are one of the Bills made great strides last year. Josh Allen's gotten better every year that he's been in the league. I wouldn't be shocked if he was the MVP of the league this year. And they're got to be the favorite there. But I really think the Patriots, and I try not to be biased in this, I'm very happy that Mac Jones is starting out the season and not sitting 4 games and just wasting that time, because I think while they may struggle out of the gate, I think come playoff time, they're going to be a contender for one of those wild cards, and it'll be a very dangerous out in the playoffs. And then you got the Dolphins, which is going to hinge on the quarterback play of Tua, and of course the Jets. The Jets are going to be, Jet fans got to not look at wins and losses, but they got to kind of look at how competitive and how this team grows. What are your thoughts on the East?
Well, I think the Buffalo obviously getting to the AFC Championship game last year against Kansas City was and winning the East for the first time in over 20 years and knocking the Patriots off was a great accomplishment. They've had some distractions off the field involving Cole Beasley and a few other players have sort of been anti-vaxxers, and it's been you wonder if that's going to cause a rift in the team. But right now I think they look solid. And you said Mac Jones, I think Bill Belichick was tired of Cam Newton, missing those 5 days right before that final preseason game. And I don't think he wants to deal with that again. And I think he has faith in Mac Jones, and that's going to be an interesting situation to watch. I think that Patriot fans are going to have to be patient with Mac Jones. He's going to have his mistakes. But I think he'll grow into the job, and I think the Patriots will get better as the season goes along. Dolphins with Tua, he's had his moments. Can he make his moments better and be more consistent? That's going to be the issue. And of course, all the talk about Deshaun Watson, maybe the Dolphins acquiring him. Of course, that's we'll talk about that when we get to the Houston's in the AFC North, or AFC South. But and then the Jets, they're going to be interesting because they have a new coach, a new quarterback, a new attitude. And I love the fact that the NFL has a sense of humor. So we see the Jets open up against Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers on Sunday.
That is awesome for sure. We'll get to Sam Darnold later. My arch nemesis, Carlos, who tells me Mac Jones will get shut down and thrown around. You know what? Early on, Carlos, he probably will. We have this debate all the time. He thought Cam was going to play a lot more than Mac. Well, we know that's not going to happen. So. Yeah. And he brings up a good point about the Dolphins. And I said this, the Dolphins, they may take a step back this year, I think. It all depends on Tua. What I like is their coach. I love Brian Flores. I think they've got a great all-around team. They don't do anything really exceptionally, but they're good in all facets of the game, I feel. especially special teams, which teams people forget about when it comes to winning football teams.
Yeah, you got don't sleep on the Dolphins. I mean, I think if, like I said, if two can be consistent and the other aspects of the game are they're well coached by Brian Flores, it's going to be they could make some noise in the AFC East.
Yeah, they would also be my pick if there's going to be a team that might disappoint their fans this year and take a step back. I think the most likely one would be the Dolphins.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens there, and I still think it's Buffalo's division to lose. I see them, repeating as AFC East champs.
Yeah, I agree. I see the Patriots. I do see the Patriots and Bills both making the playoffs there, but again, some of that might be wishful thinking on my part. The AFC North is kind of interesting with the Steelers and Big Ben getting old, and the Ravens, who looked like they were going to be really good, but have been just devastated with injuries here in the preseason to their running game specifically. The Browns, I'm still not sold on Baker Mayfield. And the Bengals, I love Burrow. And this team, while they're not going to contend for this division, I think they're going to make some great strides this season. What are your thoughts here, Ken?
I think Cleveland's the real deal. I think Baker Mayfield really matured last year. I mean, he did not have Odell Beckham Jr. He gets him back this year. Hopefully for the Browns fans, Beckham stays healthy throughout the year. Baltimore, I mean, you got to feel for them. All those injuries they suffered in the preseason, and it makes you wonder. If these athletes train too much. I mean, torn ACLs, and there's something wrong with their practice facility. That just seems kind of weird. Those two guys on the same day to torn ACLs. Yeah. As you mentioned, Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger is what, 88 now, 88 years old?
I think he graduated with my grandmother, actually, who's no longer with us, sadly. Hope Ben lasts a little longer.
And they just finally came to an agreement with T.J. Watt on a contract where you make him a really very rich man. And I don't think Watt was in training camp at all, so it's going to be interesting to see how he gets ready for the season. Cincinnati, if Joe Burrow is ready to go, I don't see them, having a winning record, but they were making some strides last year before he tore his ACL against the Washington football team. So I think another year. I mean, you hate to see a kid like that lose a remaining part of the season because of knee injury. One thing I worry about him is if he's coming back too soon. I saw that with Carson Wentz, maybe when he tore his ACL and he came back too soon. It was inconsistent that following season. And then he ended up getting hurt with his back, and then so I think this is going to be Cleveland's year to win that division. Because I think they're the strongest team right now, and they have all the momentum. They got to the playoffs last year, winning in Pittsburgh in the playoffs, in dominating fashion. So I think they're gonna be tough. I think Pittsburgh will try to make a run, but I think if they don't get their offense meet, they started out 11-0 last year, but that was really a strange 11-0. They weren't really dominant in most of those games. No. They were fortunate in some of those games, and I think their weaknesses were exposed the final half of the season.
I kind of agree. Carlos made some comments about the Steelers. I think the Steelers will be the big disappointment in my mind in this, because I just think Ben's too old, can't move, and they haven't filled enough holes. I like Najee Harris. It was a great pickup for them in the running game, but I think that defense is not as good as it was. The Browns, again, Baker Mayfield, I was tough on all last year, but you're right. He proved me wrong a lot, and he played well in the playoffs too. So he has probably matured. And I'm going to pick only one team to get to the playoffs out of this division. I like the Browns to get there. And Carlos did ask a question about Cincinnati. Can they win 8 games? I think they could win 8 games myself.
Yeah, I don't know about maybe 7. I think 7.
Everything going perfect,
Yeah. Of course, this year with the 17 games, the only way you're going to finish 500 is if you end up like 8-1 if you get a tie. So it's going to be I see maybe 7 wins for the Bengals. I think that they'll probably be battling Pittsburgh. I think they may be battling Pittsburgh for last place. I mean, or maybe the Ravens. I don't know. I got to see how the Ravens adjust with all these injuries and how Lamar Jackson can return to the form a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting race there. And Carlos mentions of people not liking the Zach Taylor. I know there was questions about whether he lost a locker room last year. I don't. But again, How much can you read into those reports? That was after the quarterback had gone down. And is there anything you've heard about the Zach Taylor being in trouble in Cincinnati?
No, I haven't heard too much. I mean, it's his first year, last year, so I mean, he'll learn from his mistakes and try to do better.
Yeah, I agree. That was interesting. I don't know what would have prompted that, to be honest with you. It isn't like you got a quarterback controversy that usually brings something like that up. So the team wasn't expected to win a bunch of games, so I really don't know what the issue was there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the South. Oh, you got something? Did you want to add something?
No, go ahead. No, good.
We'll move on to the South, which the Titans have surprised me the last few years because they've got Derrick Henry. And talking about being hard on quarterbacks, I've never been a big Ryan Tannehill fan, but he's played very well the last couple of years. Yeah. And I keep waiting for him to revert, and he doesn't. I mean, they got to be the favorite here, but the Colts, we talked about this a little bit before we went on. Obviously, an old quarterback from your team, Carson Wentz, looking for a new start. And I think if he stays healthy, which is the key for him, obviously, and key for anybody, getting back with Frank Reich is going to be huge for him. And I can see this team, if he's healthy, making the playoffs. And the Jaguars are going to, have some growing pains. But I do think that they'll be a very good team quicker than people think. I feel like Urban Meyer is – college coaches don't often make it, but I think Urban Meyer is a guy who could make it. But I don't expect him to be around long either. So,
no.
And then, of course, the dumpster fire in Texas. So what do you got here?
Well, let's start with Carson Wentz because obviously he played for my Philadelphia Eagles, and 2017 was his best year, until he got hurt against the Rams and when he tore his ACL, and then Nick Foles comes in and leads him to the Super Bowl title. I think Wentz, he probably won't admit it, but I think there was some jealousy there because I think he rushed back from that knee injury and was struggled for most of that 2018 season. And he ended up getting hurt again. And Foles comes in and leads him to the playoffs, gets him to the divisional round. And then Carson really carried the final month of the 2019 season, got him the division title, and then he gets hurt in the playoff game against Seattle. And then last year, the game against Washington, where he threw an interception late in the first half, and that seemed to set the tone for the Eagles season last year, and everything fell apart. Philadelphia fans, my son listens to sports talk radio down there, and it was the hate for Wentz. People it seems like they forget that he was going to be an MVP. He was an MVP candidate in 2017 until he got hurt.
Right.
Nick Foles struggled in his final couple games in the regular season, and fans were calling for the third stringer to be the starting quarterback in the playoff game against the Falcons. I'm going to be watching the Colts a lot to see how Wentz recovers from, how he does, because I tell you, for the Eagles, if he plays, I think it was like 75% of the games, the Eagles get a higher draft pick. But I want to see how he performs and see what happens when Jalen Hurts struggles, and then all of a sudden the Eagles fans say, "Why did we trade Wentz? Why did we trade Wentz?" Just the level of hatred towards Carson, I don't understand. He had a bad year, and
it is hard to believe.
He deserved to be benched toward the end of the season. But something happened there, which I don't know if he lost the locker room or the Eagles just lost faith. It was just bizarre how the whole thing ended with him. And I felt bad for him, but I hope he does well. I hope he doesn't get hurt. So we'll see what happens there. You mentioned Ryan Tannehill, another former Jets quarterback who seems to find success.
Miami quarterback.
Tennessee. Yeah, it's just amazing how that happens. And you mentioned Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence there winning Jacksonville winning the sweepstakes to get him. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, he hasn't not experienced losing much in his career. He's going to experience that a lot, at least this year.
Right.
Jacksonville, I think if they win 5 or 6 games, they'll be fine. Urban Meyer, that's the wild card. You mentioned sometimes the college coaches can't make that transition. There's some that have, like Dick Meal, Jimmy Johnson. They all made the transition very well. They won a Super Bowl. And then Houston, if Houston wins any games this year, I'll be surprised. I mean, the
Yeah,
whole Deshaun Watson thing is just been a mess for that organization. And J.J. Watt left, and who do they have at this point?
I agree with the they could go winless comment. I'm surprised. I've seen predictions on winning as many as 4 games. I don't know how they're going to do it unless teams don't show up and they're forfeited because of COVID. But you okay?
Yeah, my headphones went off for a second, but I could hear you all
Okay, good. Staying on the Texans for a second in this whole quarterback situation. First of all, I don't know what the Jaguars are doing with hopefully Ken's still there. Can you hear me, Ken?
Yep, I'm having issues with my headphones, so I'll just go get out of that.
That's all right. Our tech departments are not what they used to be, all right, Reno?
No, it's not you. It's me on my end. I'm going to do a flip here and put on regular headphones. So just bear with me. But you keep talking there.
Okay, so sticking with the Texans a bit in that quarterback situation. I think the NFL and the Texans have made a mess of this whole thing with him being in camp and not playing, not doing any practicing. It's just been to me a PR disaster. And how they think they're going to move this guy? They're still asking for all these first-round draft picks. How do they think they're going to move this guy for any kind of value like that?
Yeah, and especially we don't. Even if he's cleared of some of these charges, I mean, the NFL still could probably end up suspending him for a few games. It's I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to get any kind of value for him. I mean, if they're lucky to get maybe a third-round pick or a couple third-round picks down the road. Of course, with that massive contract, it's going to be they're in a bad situation with that, and I'm surprised the NFL. I mean, I'm surprised the legal process has taken this long too with that whole situation. And I thought maybe by now we would have heard if there's charges or anything like that, and we haven't heard that.
It is dragged out. And it's amazing to me, everything you read, that they're still holding out for multiple first-round picks and a quarterback. And I just can't imagine. First of all, I've said I don't think Deshaun Watson will play in the NFL again myself. You look at what happened to Ray Rice and some other guys. This is not something that the leagues take lightly as they did before. And I don't think he's going to play anymore. I really don't. If any of this is even remotely true. Now, if it's all he's found innocent of everything, well, then maybe so. But I just don't think he'll play again in the NFL.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him.
Well, in the South, I'm going to have the Titans and the Colts both in the playoffs because I like your ex-quarterback to kind of rebound this year and lead them into the playoffs and maybe surprise there. There'll be a tough team. They got a great running game. So.
Yeah, I think I can see that. I can see the Titans winning and then the Colts being a wild card, definitely.
Yeah. Let's move on to the South here. The Chiefs obviously are the class of the division. I mean, will they have a Super Bowl hangover? We'll see. I mean, that was a brutal performance. They did improve their offensive line a bit in the offseason, picking up Joe Tooney and a few other guys. Mahomes has still got to be, I think, the best quarterback in the NFL. People are doubting him because of that one game, and I think that's just ridiculous in my mind.
Well, when you're running for your life, it's kind of tough to be effective.
God, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that where as soon as you caught the ball, he's got to run, 20 yards backwards.
Yeah, it was just a tough game for him that, when you have your offensive line is decimated with injuries, it showed. It showed in that game.
It's funny. I got to tell you a story real quick because we're talking about the Super Bowl. I love Tom Brady, as you know, and being a Patriot fan. And I'll make a wager here and there. I bet against Tom Brady every single round of the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. How smart am I?
How much did you file bankruptcy?
Oh my God! It was, and my buddy who we had season tickets out there with, he's like, "What are you doing?" Because he bet him every week, and he made a bunch of money. Anyway, AFC West, the Chargers, I think, are the team to watch. I think they're going to be on the come this year with Justin Herbert. I think had a great, obviously, rookie year, and it was just a fluke that he got to play as soon as he did because of that errant shot that punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung. Yeah. Sorry for Tyrod, but good for Chargers fans.
Yeah, I like them, and I think I know. As you mentioned, Herbert is a great quarterback. He really came on, and I like that. I think this could be a team that finishes second, maybe sneaks into the playoffs. I like what they have there. I mean, don't know how the fans in Los Angeles care much. I don't think they should be in Los Angeles. I think they should still be in San Diego, but it's still tough to say Los Angeles Chargers. But I like them. I don't know if they'll challenge the Chiefs for the first place, but definitely be a playoff contender.
It feels like the Chargers, again, some of these teams that they've got coming in there, like the Chiefs and Broncos. I mean, these teams travel well. There may be more fans for the visiting teams in that stadium than rooting for the Chargers. That's going to be just an awkward situation.
Yeah, I mean, how many years did it take for the NFL to get back to Los Angeles? I mean, it didn't hurt the ratings at all. I mean, people didn't. It's going to be interesting how many Rams fans show up at the new stadium. It's. I mean, they play the Rams. Well, we'll digress here, but the Rams play the Bears Sunday night at that SoFi Stadium. I wouldn't be surprised a lot more Chicago fans than Rams fans there.
It will be interesting.
I mean, LA went from no teams to 2 teams, and Charger. Like I said, Chargers are the second fiddle in that city as far as the NFL is concerned. Maybe if they win the division, maybe get the Super Bowl, maybe they'll attract some fans. But I don't think the fandom is as strong as it was in San Diego.
Yeah, and I don't know that team as I do think they'll be much, much better. I don't think they're going to be good enough to unseat the Chiefs as a division winner. I do think they'll make the playoffs as a wild card. Looking at the bottom of the division, I've seen projections of the Raiders everywhere from 10-7 to 4 and whatever numbers are. I can't do the math as easy as I do. 4-13. I mean, and Las Vegas Raiders doesn't sound right either.
No.
I can't get around, talking about teams moving. I mean, has any fan base been mistreated worse than the Raider fan base over the years? Back and forth from Oakland to LA to where else did they play? Englewood, and now out to Vegas. I mean, it can't be good for the stability of the franchise. And I got to believe, regardless of this long-term contract that John Gruden has, he might be in some trouble if they don't turn it around this year.
Yeah, I think John Gruden might be regretting leaving the broadcast booth. It's easier to analyze from there, and then reality hits you when you don't have the players, and it's an interesting situation. You have a general manager, Mike Mack, who was never a general manager anywhere, and I think the Raiders I think this could be a crucial year. The Raiders, they're finally going to have fans in the stands in Vegas, and I think obviously they're loyal. I mean, you can still have fans from Oakland driving over to Vegas to watch the team play. Yeah. But I think this is a crucial year for Gruden. If they don't, at least get a winning record, he could be, collecting a paycheck while not on the sidelines.
Yeah, he could decide to spend more time with his family here very shortly, I think. Yeah. And I just want to let Dave Guyette know we'll get to this question here near the end here, Dave. I don't want to pick a Super Bowl winner in the middle of the thing here, but we'll get to it, I promise. Big Bills fan. I know he's excited that you might pick the Bills here, so we'll find out that later. Let's see, what do we got? So the Broncos, I don't know if the Broncos are the Broncos. I still see them bringing up the bottom of that division. They can't address the quarterback situation in a reasonable fashion. Teddy Bridgewater, I didn't know who actually got the starting job there. And that I think about it, did Bridgewater win the job, or
it's a good question. I'm not sure yet.
I don't think it even matters, to be honest.
Yeah, they went 3-0 in the preseason. That probably doesn't mean anything, though.
No. I mean, Baltimore's won 20 in a row in the preseason. Yeah. I mean, it's a remarkable number, but what does it mean? Anything?
Nope. It doesn't mean anything.
Real quick, I did mean to look for this starting. Yeah, I got Teddy Bridgewater at the top of their depth chart. So that doesn't, Teddy Bridgewater is a nice player, but he's not a guy to lead your team. And there's just not enough going on there on offense, I don't think, to get them over 500 or anywhere close to the playoffs.
And Fangio doesn't excite me as a head coach.
No. I would say if we're going to talk about guys in trouble, he'd be in trouble as well this year.
He might be at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait till the end to kind of do our Super Bowl playoff and Super Bowl picks. Well, let's do this. Let's do so I've got let's just do our playoff picks here. Okay. We'll do the Super Bowl pick later. So I've got the Bills, the Patriots. I've got the the Browns. I've got the Titans and the Colts. And I've got the Chargers and the Chiefs in the playoffs.
I go with that too. I like that, and I think if you're going to see the AFC Championship game, I think you see a rematch between. I take that back. I think you're going to see Cleveland and Kansas City in the championship game with Kansas City winning.
I will take Kansas City repeating and going back to the Super Bowl myself. Who they play depends on how well my Patriots are playing at the end of the year. I guess I'll make a heart pick and say Bill Belichick finds his way back to the AFC Championship game.
Oh, okay.
But obviously, Bills or Browns are a good pick as well.
Yeah.
Moving on to the NFC East, which I know you have great interest in,
Yes.
being a giant Eagle fan and ruining one of my Sundays here in the last few years. I don't hold you personally responsible, just so you know.
Yeah.
This is an interesting division because, last year Washington won it at 7-9. I mean, these teams are going to be bunched up again. I do think Washington's the best team in the division just because their defense is all world to me. They got the best defense by far to me in the NFL, and they added some good skill position players at running back and wide receiver. And I do think Fitzpatrick will get off to a good start because he does everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
And then I think Henneke will replace him eventually, and that team will win the division. And the Cowboys and the Giants will fight it out for second, not make the playoffs. Maybe the Cowboys will sniff the playoffs, but your Eagles, I feel, are going to be in trouble. And I'd love to get your take on that because I am not sold on Hurts. And I think the new coach is running into a tough situation here. So,
yeah, I mean, Hurts didn't see much action in the preseason, which concerns me. And he had his moments when he took over as a starter last year from Carson Wentz, but I'm not. I think if they win 6 games, I'll be happy. I'm not expecting them to have a winning record. Obviously, they got Devontae Smith as a wide receiver, which they desperately need.
Player, right?
Yeah,
great player.
Howie Roseman's made some questionable draft picks over the last few years, which has hurt this team. The Eagles were also in the conversation with Deshaun Watson, which would have been interesting if they had acquired him. But what I've been reading and hearing, I mean, people seem to like Nick Sirianni. He's never been a head coach in the NFL, but people seem to like him. He seems to be honest with his takes on the team. So I think Eagles fans are going to have to be patient this year. I mean, they got a tough schedule. They got to, they do play Tampa Bay. They play the Super Bowl teams and they host them at Tampa Bay comes in on the Thursday night. And they got Kansas City, I think, in week 4. If they can somehow, win some games against the NFCs, that could make things interesting. If they could, sweep the Giants, maybe split with Washington, split with Dallas. I mean, the way that division ended up last year, it's just so comical that a 7-9 team ended up hosting a playoff game because that happened a few years ago with Seattle, against New Orleans. I like Washington. I mean, Fitzmagic is, he seems to be an Eagles killer wherever he goes whenever he plays against the Eagles. Yeah. So, I mean, as you mentioned, Washington's defense is outstanding. And what we saw last night with Dallas, as we mentioned earlier, Dak Prescott looked excellent. The Cowboys defense did have their moments, but in the end, when they needed crunch time, they couldn't stop Tom Brady. So you wonder if that defense, which was awful last year, is improved at all. We'll see what happens as we go through the season. The Giants, I think they're on the clock right now with Daniel Jones. If he's not been, I think, what they expected out of him. I mean, Joe Judge, that was his second year, but I think he's not going to. I think if Jones has issues, Judge is going to probably get the hook out early. And of course, Saquon Barkley, how healthy is he coming off that torn ACL? That's if he can be back to where he was before the injury, maybe the Giants will be a little bit better than what they were last year. That
offensive line, Daniel Jones, any quarterback relies on their offensive line, and Daniel Jones, with the problems he has holding on to the football as it is, that line has been a sieve in the preseason. It was a sieve last year, and I don't think they've improved. They've improved their defense. They've improved their some skill position players, and with Saquon Barkley coming back, obviously that's a big addition. But if you don't have an offensive line to base it all around, I think it spells doom for the Giants and Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I don't see the Giants making the playoffs. I mean, I think it's Washington's division to lose, and everybody else will be watching the playoffs from home.
Yeah, and again, I think 9-8 could win that. Again, I don't think it'll be a 14-win season for Washington by any means. I think it'll be 9-8, 10-7, something close to that. I do think they'll get over 500 this year, but
we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Let me ask you this before we move on from this division. Being an Eagles fan, do you think Doug Peterson got what he deserved? He got a raw deal. What do you think?
His coaching last year was subject to question. I think he may have been exposed, without Frank Reich there. Obviously, either the Eagles did get to the playoffs the next 2 years after the Super Bowl win. I just think the whole Carson Wentz situation was mishandled. And I think that really, players lost faith in Doug Peterson, and maybe it was the best thing for the two parties to part right now. And we'll see if Doug gets another head coaching job. We'll see what he does, and if that Super Bowl victory was a fluke. I mean, I'm happy it was a fluke, but I think there's some interesting things going on in that organization. I mean, you wonder if Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are telling the coaches how to run the team, and if they are, that's not the recipe for success.
We see how it ruins baseball when front offices tell managers how to run their team, right? It doesn't work. Doesn't work for me. And look, Peterson's got to take some ownership for the whole Carson Wentz thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit with another team in a bit. But I think Peterson will get another job. I did make a prediction to the Philly sports guy, Jamie Paggs, who's also got a show here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Huge Patriot fan, huge Eagle fan. He thinks they're going to win 9 games this year, and I told him he was nuts. I said Doug Peterson will be in the NFL winning 9 games before the Eagles win 9 games.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
So let's move on to the North. Some interesting storylines here, obviously, with the Packers and the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, and which I've been very vocal about. Aaron Rodgers needs to shut up and play football, and he talks about not getting weapons around him. I think he's got 2 of the best weapons in football around him, in Devontae Adams and the running back. Skipping my brain now.
Yeah, skipping my brain too. Yeah,
come on, I do this every time. I say Devontae Adams first, and Aaron Jones. Yeah. Aaron Jones. So great weapons. And, Tom Brady, watching Tom Brady for years give money back. And again, I give money back is a relative term. I get that. But he would renegotiate his contract year after year to get better players around him. Aaron Rodgers never did that.
Nope.
Right? Aaron Rodgers' team was good enough to get to the NFC Championship game last year and should have won if he runs the ball on 3rd down. Forget about the coach's bad decision to kick the field goal. But I think there's going to be problems in Packerland because I think he's lost half the locker room, lost half the fan base.
Maybe Aaron was hoping to get the Jeopardy hosting job. That's why he was calling people out. But
he didn't do that good. He shouldn't be counting on that.
No. So it's going to be. I think the one fortunate thing for Rodgers and the Packers is that North Division. I don't see anybody challenging the Packers this year. I mean the Bears. Yeah, they have quarterback issues. The Lions have a new quarterback in Jared Goff, and the Vikings they have off-field issues with COVID. So, I mean, it's still the Packers division. Rodgers, despite the turmoil that there's going on in Green Bay, and of course, I think Aaron's feelings are still hurt that they drafted a quarterback in the 1st round a couple of years ago, and it's sort of like what happened with him and Brett Favre. And I think you're right, Aaron. I think Aaron needs just to keep his mouth shut. He doesn't run the team, and just play the game, and that's what he's got to do.
And you're right; they'll probably win the division by fall. I did give the Vikings a bit of a chance before they had some of their COVID issues. I've never been a big Kirk Cousins fan, so that's their number one strike for me. Cook's just a tremendous running back, though. They've got a great running game. Their defense is still pretty good. They're going to miss Kyle Rudolph, I think, a lot. And I just think they're going to fall short of the Packers just a bit. And the Bears situation, That's the other one I was kind of alluding to a second ago.
Yeah.
I don't know how you let Matt Nagy still give the keys to another franchise quarterback, because I think, and I may be in a minority here, but I think Mitchell Trubisky has talent to play in the NFL, and he showed some flashes of it in Chicago, and I think Nagy just ran him off the rails, and now you're going to give him the keys to another guy and let him do the same thing. I thought he should have been let go in the offseason before they drafted this new franchise quarterback in Josh Fields.
Yeah, it's going to be, of course, Andy Dalton may be starting, and of course they still have Nick Foles there in Chicago, so it's a really a situation that's going to be worth watching to see how much. Obviously, going to be enormous pressure on Nagy if Dalton struggles early, and then want to put Fields in. I think Fields will be eventually down the road if Chicago struggles early. I think they'll probably end up putting him in maybe midway through the season, but it feels look good in some of the games he played. So it's going to be interesting to see what the fan base. I know the fan base will be really loud and right on top of the Nagy to get things moving here, and I think they're tired of the quarterback carousel. I mean, Trubisky had his moments, but so they lost faith in him.
Yeah, it's funny. I have people question me sometimes about my comments about Mac Jones, and I think he should play right away and get the lumps, get the bumps and lumps out of the way early on, and why I don't think Josh Fields should play. But they're two different situations. The Patriots have put together a team that's ready to contend now and get better now. The Bears are not in that same position, and you could destroy the kid's confidence by playing him too much too soon. I think they're I mean, their defense is good, and it'll be better now with a full season from Brown. No, it's a cop boy. I got it. I've asked Prevagen to become a sponsor of my show, and they have not responded yet. But I need a free supply. Gosh, it's getting terrible. Let me get to the depth chart here so I know what the heck I'm talking about here. Khalil Mack, Jesus, good grief. Khalil Mack, he was the best player in football before he started on the defensive side of the football, before he started having injuries pile up and became a Bear, which probably has something to do with his downfall as well. But I don't think that defense can give that team any hope of making the playoffs. Yeah,
it's going to be tough. And of course, in Detroit, we mentioned Jared Goff. That's another strange situation where you look at his top two draft picks in the 2016 draft, and now with different teams, and Goff ends up being traded from the Rams for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
is Goff going to be able to adjust to a new team? And maybe he didn't need a change of scenery. So we'll see if he can do better than what he did last year with the Rams.
He doesn't have much surrounding him there, though. I think the skill positions leave a lot to be desired. 1 or 2 wins would be a good year, I think, for this team this year, unfortunately for Lions fans. Let's move to the South, where obviously we've got the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, fresh off their season opening win last night that we talked about at the Open, and Tom Brady. I mean, this team struggled at times last year, but really hit their stride, obviously, in the playoffs. And this team, they brought almost the entire team back.
They did. I mean, they brought all 22 starters back, which has been, I think that's been a long time since that happened.
Oh, it might be decades, for crying out loud. And this team could be even better than they were last year with a season together. I mean, Arians and Brady had to get on the same page. They had some issues, through the midseason last year, and I think they worked those out. And I think him working with guys like Godwin, and then as much as I'm not a huge Antonio Brown fan, you saw last night, he brings something out of offense that makes a big difference. I don't see anybody giving them a run here in the NFC South. The Saints are going to struggle. Winston's not the answer at quarterback. I don't think. I don't know what Sean Payton's thinking, but he gets paid a lot more money than me to talk about these things, or make those decisions. But I don't see anybody challenging him. I do like Matt Rule. Before I let you go, I like the Panthers and what they're doing. I like Matt Rule a lot. It's possible Sam Darnold makes a comeback there. It'd be very interesting to see. As you said, we get to see it out of the gate. Yeah, but I don't think they're ready to contend just yet, for sure.
I don't. Yeah, it's Tampa Bay, and they're going to leave everybody else in this division in dust. The Falcons have a new coach, and I mean, as you mentioned, Saints, no more Drew Brees, and of course they're also dealing with the hurricane, having to play their first home game in Jacksonville against Green Bay on Sunday. I think maybe this is where the Saints start to fall off, and I mean, as you mentioned, Winston. I mean, has been a disappointment. He was disappointing in Tampa Bay. He won the job here, but I don't know if the Saints are going to be as successful now with him at starting quarterback as they were Drew Brees. I think the Saints fans are going to go back to seeing some losing ways for a little bit.
I think you're going to see more Taysom Hill on the field than you had in the past. Not just in special situations. I think you may see him actually playing stretches at quarterback. We didn't talk about the Falcons. The Falcons, I don't know what they're doing. I love Matty Ice. A friend of mine went played offensive line in front of him at BC, and he's a great kid. God, he's 30 some years old. What is he now? 35. 36?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
But I don't think that he's going to be around when this team is ready to contend again. I was surprised they didn't move him in the offseason. Great move picking up Pitts. I think he might be the most impactful player of those first few chosen in this last draft. I love that kid from Florida. But again, I don't see them making any. You see any hope for the Falcons at all?
No, I don't. Yeah, it's they traded Julio Jones, and it's going to be a rough year down there. And with the new coach, I think they're going to struggle to win maybe 5 games.
Atlanta will have one positive. I'm not sure what that is. Panthers could get a wild card. Well, you know what? I like Carlos's thinking there. I may go out on a limb there. I'm not sure yet with the Panthers. We'll see. NFC West, which arguably or not, is the best, I think, the most balanced division in football as far as top to bottom quality. You can rank these teams in almost any order depending on who you're talking to. I'm not really sold on Matthew Stafford and the Rams marriage. Matthew Stafford's a really fine quarterback, but I know he played in Detroit, but not one playoff win on his resume. And he played with some decent players at times.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when the Patriots were kicking the tires on him during the offseason, and I read an article that I thought hit it dead on. Patriots have already had Matthew Stafford before. His name was Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Who was a fine NFL quarterback, but not a guy to get you to the promised land. Love Drew, but I see Matthew Stafford in kind of that same light. What are your thoughts? Again, I see the division as wide open. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, this division, I think at one point last year it looked like all 4 teams were going to make the postseason. And I mean, Seattle, you still got Russell Wilson there, and there were some issues with him in the offseason about whether they were going to trade him or not. And Seattle is smart decision to keep him. 49ers, the Garoppolo, if he's going to be healthy, that's a situation worth watching. And the Cardinals had their moments last year, and the Rams with Matthew Stafford. I mean, it seems like it's a short term. They gave up the future of Goff for a short term for them, hopefully a short term gain. But Stafford's in his mid-30s, and he's been beat up a lot in Detroit. So if he can find some magic in LA, great. But I don't see that happening, and I think the Rams are probably going to take a step back. I think this is going to be a division battle between the 49ers and the Seahawks.
Yeah, I do see the Rams being the disappointment in this division. The surprise I see, I think the Cardinals finally take a step forward. I think Kyle Murray stays healthy, he's got some time under his belt to mature a little bit, as we talked about with Baker Mayfield. I think they're going to be the surprise team here. The 49ers, it's going to be interesting what they do with that quarterback situation. I mean, Garoppolo is going to start the season, but they've said that Trey Lance is going to play, and he may play like a Taysom Hill role in the beginning of the year. But there's a lot of guys I've read that have talked about him being the starter by the time, if they make the playoffs, by the time they get there, he could be the starter.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I have to lean toward. I think I'm going to lean toward San Francisco winning, with Seattle being a wild card, and Arizona also being a wild card.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers to win the division. The Cardinals very closely behind to get the wild card there. So that would leave us with Let's see what we got here. So playoff teams in the NFC. I've got Washington, and I'm going to have the Cowboys sneaking into a wild card there. We'll take the Packers only out of the NFC East. The Buccaneers, and I'll take a flyer on the Panthers to sneak out a wild card somehow. That'll be my flyer. I got 2 flyers, 49ers and Cardinals out of the West. What are your thoughts here, Ken?
I'm going to go with Washington in the East. As I said, San Francisco winning the division in the West, Green Bay in the North, and Tampa in the South. And wild cards, I'm going to go 49ers, Seahawks, and I'll go with the Cowboys.
Cowboys, yeah. It's funny. We got to pick a third one. It's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough. So interesting. It'll be an interesting season. So that gives us. And who do you pick as far as getting out of the NFC?
I think we're going to go San Francisco, Tampa Bay. With Tampa Bay winning, I think we'll see a rematch in the Super Bowl.
I've been on the same page. Rematch. And I guess since we're at that point, Dave got asked before, we have to pick a winner. Man, it's so tough. I really, like I said, I picked against my boy every playoff game last year. Can I do it again this year in the Super Bowl? Is he going to get that 8th ring? I think Kansas City finds a way to come back and get it done. I just love Andy Reid and I love Patrick Mahomes, and they're not going to have that same embarrassment that they had last year.
I think Tampa Bay has a momentum. I think they repeat.
Tampa Bay. So Tom Britt's 8. He's going to need to grow more fingers. I mean, this poor guy. Really feel bad for him. It's amazing. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, think about Tom Brady. I don't see him slowing down. I mean, guys are 44 years old, just don't play to this level, obviously. And it doesn't look like he's ready to. I remember guys telling me he's fallen off a cliff 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Where? When's it end?
I don't think. I mean, it's almost like Nolan Ryan-esque, where Nolan Ryan was throwing fastballs like 95 miles an hour in his mid-40s. So it's amazing. And this day and age, of course, the way he trains and keeps his body in shape, it's he could play for another couple of years.
Nolan Ryan was also beating the crap out of young whippersnappers at 47 years old. If you remember, my favorite clip of all time, because somebody who works for me in my real life job, she's a big Robin Ventura fan. She loved him. And I play that clip for her at least a few times a year of him just getting pummeled by Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of injuries, Ken, before we wrap up today. There's been a lot of injuries. The last couple of years, really devastating injuries to big stars early on during the season. I mean, even mostly early on. And even during the season, I have this theory, and I don't think it's mine alone, so I don't think I made it up, that they don't hit enough. And the problem is when you get into game action, guys aren't used to getting hit. Once the season starts, they don't hit at all in practice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're done. And your body needs to get build up a tolerance to those hits, especially today. These guys are like human missiles coming at you sometimes. And I think that's led to a lot of these devastating injuries. And it's because of the players' union, obviously negotiating, that type of thing out of the contracts, partly anyway. But I think it also trying to protect their players. But I think it's had the reverse effect that they are not ready to take hits. What are your thoughts?
I think that's one reason. And I think the other fact I mentioned, I think guys train basically year round. They don't give their bodies a chance to rest. And I think it's why you see torn ACLs and hamstring issues and torn biceps. You just wonder how much stress the body can take with all this working out. And I don't remember growing up. I don't remember all these kind of injuries players had. I mean, they back then spring training camps were 2-a-days in the heat, and the players wilted. I mean, it didn't wilt. I mean, it made them stronger. And I think nowadays you don't have the 2-a-days. And as you said, they don't hit as much. And I think that also takes a toll on me. Also, the fact that it's amazing to me. Still, you want to protect players, and you still see, players leading with their helmets, trying to, tackle somebody and hit in the head. It's just like, teach techniques better. Teach tackling. I mean, I like to see the targeting rule not to the effect with the college where they throw people out with a target, but let's get targeting out of the game. If you see it, penalize them. Don't throw them out of the game. Or if you get 2 targets, then maybe throw it out of the game. But I think NFL's got to do a better job with that, trying to legislate the head hits.
I agree. Tackling's a lost art today. Everybody's just trying to, move as fast, launch themselves as hard as they can and as fast as they can into somebody to knock them down. How often do you see that happen? A guy bounce off and go for another, 30 yards. It's very poorly done. I do have to bring up one more thing here because Brady I got to bring up Carlos because Brady first he was telling me the Patriots were overrated for 8 years. I guess those Super Bowls were overrated. And Brady, Patriots and Brady were synonymous. You can't say Brady was the key. Brady's the key on any team he is. A quarterback is the key almost on every team we talk about. How many Super Bowl teams, other than the Baltimore with Trent Dilfer, win without a top-notch quarterback?
Well, Tampa Bay's first one was Brad Johnson. Well,
that's true. Brad Johnson was another example, but you got to have just a tremendous defense if you're going to be able to win with a Trent Dilfer or a Brad Johnson.
And Jeff Hostetler, when the Giants won against Buffalo.
Yeah, it's a good example. He was on a good run, though. He played some pretty good quarterback at the time.
I'll put Nick Foles in there too.
You know what? Nick Foles has made a lot of money off of a couple of playoff runs, hasn't he?
Yeah. He had a good first stint with the Eagles in his first go around, and then he got hurt, and Chip Kelly lost faith in him, and so it's you need a top-notch quarterback. You can't rely on if you get lucky, you have a backup take you to the promised land, but that's those things that don't happen too often.
Yeah, I still have nightmares about Nick Foles. Maybe they'll go away. Maybe they'll go away someday, Ken.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Listen, I appreciate you coming in today. I know you're busy. We'll let you go, and thank you for your insight here. And as we go through the season, maybe we'll have you back on and see how we're doing with our predictions here today.
Sounds good, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah. Take care.
Ken Schott from the Daily Gazette. Like having Ken on. Good guy. Got a great podcast. You guys want to check out. It's called, let me say it. I think it's Parting Shots. So yesterday he did his NFL preview on his show. So we thank Ken for coming on today. Also some great articles in the Daily Gazette if you guys want to check Ken's work out. Guys, big weekend. NFL, we're here. Lots of big games as we just talked about. Since we got a couple minutes, I'm going to just run down quickly. I'm off to a good start within the pick'ems that I'm in that are not spread-wise. I would pick in Tampa Bay, but not the one that I'm running, TGI Sports Talk, with the spread. I think I'll be 1-0 here. I'm pretty sure I took Tampa Bay last night. So not a good effort for me. But real quick, we'll just run down the scores quick. And I did see, I won't do that. I'm going to go back to your next week is still up in the air, Dave. We're struggling for guests a little bit recently, but I may change the format to bring in more writers like Ken and talk about the games coming up and the things going on, depending on what we can put together. We've had a lot of great guests, and I'm trying to make it more football centric as we head into football season. I'll tell you, the baseball players are much easier to get than the football players. So I'll let you guys know probably by Sunday what we've got going on there. I do have some college guests coming up for the college football huddle on Wednesdays, so be on the lookout for that. Carlos is still talking about defense wins Super Bowls. I don't disagree, but so do quarterbacks. You just had to watch look at the defense for Tampa Bay won, but they don't win without Tom Brady either. They aren't even in a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. So, the touchdown he throws, two things. Touchdown he throws against Green Bay at the half, puts them over the top, and then the game-winning drive, obviously, where LaFleur makes a horrible call to go for the field goal. So, yes, Tampa Bay had a great defense, but they also had a great quarterback. So, we'll talk more about all of this stuff, guys, on Sunday, with our Stream of Consciousness. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media will join us, and we'll call it that for the day. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to the groups that'll let us share this to them today. We'll see you Sunday with more. Well, we'll cover the entire world of sports. Got a lot of college. Again, full college slate. We got the NFL games to preview. Lots to go on. So we'll see you then. Keith Engel from TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. You have a great weekend. See you Sunday.